Farming wasn't always the immense business it is today, a business focused on maximizing produce and grinding profit. Farming started as a self-sustainable method of keeping food on the table for the whole family. From cattle to wheat, every community had their own little farm, from which they obtained their nutrition needed for living, and that was it. This concept of farming was around as early as 7000 BC by domesticating sheep, pigs, and goats. Moving on to the Romans, structures changed a little. Designated farmers took care of their animals, butchered them, and then sold their meat on the market. However, even this development didn't remotely lead to excess production. The Middle Ages, lacking the intellectual culture of the previous societies, focused on farming as a basic need for living. This led to the development of new equipment used in agriculture, which increased the regular produce gained by the farmers. This set the scene for the agricultural revolution in the 18th century. New patterns of crop rotation and livestock utilization paved the way for better crop yields, a greater diversity of wheat and vegetables, and the ability to support more livestock. Until this point, it was fairly simple. Big farms supply food for their surroundings through trades and markets. The methods of mass production were simple, safe, and effective. The three-field system, the invention of the seed drill, and selective breeding made farming the impressive concept that it was. But times have changed. We have entered a whole new era of technology, communication, and industrialization. Although this new age has brought countless benefits, such as medical progress or connectivity of people all around the world, it's an unfamiliar change that we must adapt to. Some aspects of these innovations could lead to catastrophic results if humans don't comply with the Earth's needs. A great example of this is pollution, specifically greenhouse gas emissions. To put it as simply as possible, this problem works as follows. Warmth radiates from the sun into the Earth's atmosphere. Under normal conditions, this warmth is absorbed a little by the Earth, but is then sent out of the Earth's atmosphere, making space for new waves of heat. However, when there is a high amount of gas such as CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere, things change a little. When the sun rays enter the atmosphere, they are refracted by the gas particles. This causes them to stay in the atmosphere, meaning too much heat is stored in the atmosphere and not enough is let out again. This causes an effect known as global warming. Now, what causes that greenhouse gas emission? What do you think causes it? Take a look at this pie chart. Most of you probably thought of cars, trains, and planes, but let's take those away for a second. Others surely thought of factories emitting tons of gases. That's the industry. But even that we can rub out for now. Now all the rest. Fossil fuels, electricity, buildings, and other types of energy. There's still a huge sector left. A quarter, to be exact. This quarter leads us back to farming. Farming and agriculture accounts for 25% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. This might come as a surprise to the majority of people watching, and for exactly that reason, it's important to explain it. How does farming cause such immense gas emissions? The two most common greenhouse gases released in agriculture are methane and nitrous oxide. Though these gases are scarcer in the atmosphere than the infamous CO2, they're hundreds of times more potent. Methane, for example, is extremely efficient at trapping radiation in the Earth's atmosphere. Methane is emitted by cattle belching. To be exact, the grass, heavily stocked up on chemical fertilizers, becomes difficult to digest for cows, which leads to fermentation in the stomach. When microorganisms in the cow's gut break it down, methane is produced as a byproduct. These toxins are released through belching and harm our environment. While it may sound funny or trivial, this method of methane emission accounts for an estimated 80 million tons a year. Other factors in agriculture contribute to the rising rate of methane emission, such as the decomposition of animal waste products. A dairy cow produces around 120 pounds of wet manure in one day. This manure can be used positively as a natural fertilizer, but when mismanaged, the decomposition can release immense amounts of methane. Nitrous oxide, which is roughly 300 times as potent as CO2, is also released immensely during agricultural processes. 70% of all nitrous oxide released globally originates from agriculture. When you combine the potency of the compound with that fact, it dawns on you how fatal these systems can be. Nitrous oxide is released yet again due to the misuse of nitrogen-based fertilizers. The nitrogen reacts with natural elements in the soil and is then released as the dangerous gas. Moving on from the lethal chemical reactions that occur, there are also other very physical aspects that are global problems. For example, deforestation. Everyone mildly interested in the environment has heard about this problem. Trees use water and light during photosynthesis to turn CO2 into oxygen and glucose. This is not only necessary to breathe, but it also impedes global warming. However, as agriculture is becoming an increasingly profitable business, more and more land is needed in order to expand farms and the land they use. This growth never intrudes city districts or housing areas, but always tends to attack forests and areas that are still untouched. The long-term effects of this system are immeasurable and quite obvious. We run out of trees and produce more CO2. If global warming doesn't kill us, the lack of oxygen will. Another physical problem caused by this exaggerated culture of farming present today is land degradation. When too many animals inhabit fragments of land, it can ruin areas forever. When livestock eat plants down to the roots, the plants grow short, unsustainable roots, and eventually the plants will stop growing altogether. This leaves large open areas with no vegetation where the soil is exposed to the elements. The soil becomes very dry and desertification occurs. The land ostensibly becomes a desert. It can change the landscape, destroy the productivity of the land, and it is extremely harmful to the biodiversity of an ecosystem. Another mind-blowing situation to consider is that according to the EPA, 25% of all land around the world is used for livestock and agriculture. Now imagine the process of land degradation taking place in that quantity. It's easy to say that this would have an extremely devastating effect on life all around the globe. After learning about all this, it might seem out of your hand. It might seem uncontrollable. We are doomed and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's not true. Food is produced for us. Food is produced because we want it. We want it cheap, we want it bountiful, and we want it easy. We don't care about what's going on behind the scenes or what impacts it can have. But we should. Sooner or later, we'll have to recognize that the Earth has rights too, to live without pollution. Mother Earth can live without us, but we cannot live without her. So the next time you walk into your local supermarket to buy meat for dinner, don't just buy the cheapest option. Don't buy the one with the best advertisement. Look closely. Where is it from? How is it made? What fertilizers were used? Is it a big industrial farm or a small local one? Do a little research. And if that takes too much effort, maybe skip meat for the day, or even longer. There are plenty of options that are tasty, nutritious, and can save our planet. Raise awareness. Let people know. Teach the people in your surroundings about what you've learned, and maybe even try to find out a little more. Remember, Earth has taken care of us for billions of years. It's time for us to care for it as well. This change isn't impossible. This change starts with me and you.